Hey guys, welcome back. I hope everyone is having a very wonderful day so far, and thanks for stopping by. It means a lot. Alright, so currently number one on the Genesys ladder by a pretty decent margin. I have won 32 of my last 33 games, so a really nice win rate so far. I've been doing well with the Draco Tail list. It's the same list that is up on the channel with some minor tweaks into the side deck, but yeah, main and extra is exactly the same. If you want to listen to my take on the deck, how all the cards work, and some of the unique interactions, please go check that out. But today I'm just going to be going over some games, showcase how the deck does both going first and on the draw. And without further ado, let's jump right into them. So first off, I just want to show off how the deck does going first, what an idealistic opener would look like. Obviously, here we have two names plus a Cap, a Crowley, and a Rahu. About as good as you could expect to see. So first off, we're going to normal the Malulu. It's important that we're going to normal the Malulu, right? Because we can either start Rahu, Phimena, or Lulu. We want to make our Thalion first because we want to use the Crowley and the Cap Shell. And that means starting Malulu is better because it's going to be all from hand and they can all come back. If you start with the Rahu, one's going to have to go to graveyard. And I want to use all of these names right now because I want to use Phimena specifically. I need to set 4 cards, Ketu, and all 3 traps. So I need to use Phimena, the Lulu, the send off Rahu, and the search off Ketu. I need to use all of them as material. So I use the Arth, I use on all 3, use the Cap to draw, and find a pawn. I'm not going to end up using the pawn this turn, but it is just a fantastic draw nonetheless, especially for follow-up. If I had the pawn originally, I probably would have sequenced this a little bit differently, but, ended up being nice. Use the Ketu here to search for a Frixel. And then I use Phimena to use the Malulu and the Frixel to go into a Secretarion. This triggers both of them to get some traps from the deck, and then allows me to use Secretarion to put back the Arthalion to summon Frixel, Frixel revive Malulu, and then put itself back into hand so I can use the Frixel as material for the Rahu. Importantly, I'm summoning the Malulu here because I know there's a good chance I'm going to want to horn it back, just to get more materials for the Arthalion, as well as just to trigger a Gulamel. Could be in defense here, but I think it's better in attack. We use the Orgula and the Frixel to make the Gulamel, Orgula to get the last trap, and then Orgula to add back the Phimena. This is everything, right? This is everything you could possibly want. Arthalions in the extra deck, you're going to get Zoroa to negate any card that they control, or sorry, any monster effect they activate, and then pop any card they control. A fantastic interruption. Gulamel is a quick play pop. Malulu lets you fuse it into an Arthalion and then negate any card they control. Theoretically, if they use like an effect like Crocia to special summon itself, you could chain Malulu, or fuse into the Arthalion, and then use Malulu to negate the Crocia in response to its on-summon trigger. So you're going to have Malulu negate, Arthalion's going to get back Crowley and go into Eyevice for a Snatch Steal effect. We have the Horn Bounce, we have Sting, Double DD Crow, we have the Flame Negate, we have Phimena to go into a Philia Regis for a banish of any card on field or graveyard. You get a Pawn Pop when you do that. This is so much layered interaction that really no deck is going to be able to particularly do much into this. Obviously, pretty quickly, I just wrap this one up because there's so much layered interaction. I have Malulu here, chain the Gulamel, get a pop. He uses Happy, I can just flame that. Blessing just does absolutely nothing. I'm going to Horn Bounce to get another material from my Arthalion. And make sure I'm getting back the Crowley to go into an Eyevice. Here, Malulu can negate the Mole Cricket, or in response to whatever he summons, and he just scoops that one up. Again, there's really nothing that he could possibly do about that one. It's just so much interaction. With the 3 traps, Zoroa, Malulu, Arthalion to make Eyevice, the Pawn Pop, Regis, it's like 10 to 12 pieces of interaction, depending on, how many you're bouncing with Arthalion, if you count Malulu, whatever, but it is a ton. Next up is going to be the game against P.U.N.K. So he started off with a pretty good combo. He ended on Jam Fever, which is a negate for any monster effect that negates the activation and destroys. Has Duration to tribute itself and either blow up all my monsters or face up spell traps. He has Psychic Blaster MK2, which is a banish for any face up monster on the field. I know he has Teleport Fusion set right there, which goes into an Axon Kicker, either the one that's a Seravis, negates a summon and banishes it, or banishes all face-up cards I control. I know he has a Gabu somewhere to be able to negate any effects and then gain a bunch of life, and I know he has the Ghost Ogre. Or I don't know he has a Ghost Ogre in hand. That's everything. It's a lot to go into, but if you see, obviously, I have Invocation, I have some names. And here, I have to think about what is going to be happening, right? Basically, no matter what here, my Arthalion is going to get Gabu'd, right? The Gabu will always trade for the Arthalion, so instead of trying to use it to add back cards, I'm using it to protect my Orgula and my Pawn from the Jam Fever. So I go Chainlink 1 Pawn, Chainlink 2 Orgula, Chainlink 3 Arthalion. He uses Gabu, right, as I expected. And now I get my choice of what I'm going to pop, right? By far, the most important card in this field is the Teleport Fusion, so we're going to Urgula pop Teleport Fusion. And then I decide I'm not really too worried about the Jam Fever at this point, so I might as well just pop the Psychic Blaster Mark II. As you see, we've already basically just gotten rid of a massive, massive part of the board just with the Urgula and the Pawn. From here, we just need to use our fusions to wrap up the rest of the board. I use Rahu, dumping the Malulu, right, which is going to negate one of these, dump the Frixel. To make a Gulamel, I'll go Chainlink 1 Malulu, Chainlink 2 Frixel, so he can only jam negate Frixel. He chooses to, because if not, it's just going to get popped with a Gulamel or negated by Malulu. Duration here uses to pop both of my Mons. I use Malulu to negate the Jam Fever. He gets his draw, and now I have taken out all of the known information. He has one unknown set and a Ghost Ogre. From here, I just fire off the Ketu. I can use it with the Lucius to go into a Secretarion, because he has a monster on the field, so it becomes a poly. Lucius will trigger to give me my last trap. Arthalion comes back, Gulamel comes back, and I mean, that's just going to be all she wrote. Obviously, once I trigger the Gulamel, I have well over 8,000 on board. Use the Secretarion. He could pop this, but it would do absolutely nothing. It even lets me pawn to get a revive. He Ghost Ogres here, I assume. No, Ghost Ogres on the Frixel effect to try to stop Gulamel. But obviously, Lucius will just trigger, and that's going to be all she wrote. Right, I bounce the Secretarion, Lucius, Gulamel, pop, out of 5 mana just in case, but that's, not going to be anything important. Lucius runs over the Sharakusai, Gulamel, Arthalion, and that's game. Next up is going to be a game against Vanquish Soul. So Vanquish Soul is a very interesting matchup for the deck. Because obviously, once they resolve the Soul Snow, you can't pop much of their stuff. But if you are able to just outgrind them, that's pretty good. Or you'll be able to do what we see in this. So he has the whole Vanquish Soul stuff. He's got a Mad Love. He's got a Caesar. He can Holly Suit a Steel. He's got a DD Crow, Soul Snow, pop my whole board, give himself protection, whatnot. Here I start off with a Ketu. Add 5 mana, which gives me protection, and I'm just going to use the Orgula and the Pawn to make an Arthalion. Again, if he has anything like, a Vect Veiler or a Mourner to try to stop the Arthalion, I can just chain the 5 mana here, go into a Secretarion with the Frixel, and just completely avoid that. Here, I'm basically forcing him to fire off the Soul Snow because I used Urgula. If he doesn't fire it, I will pop it, and that means all of his monsters can now be destroyed by P.U.N.K. You know, and all my other destruction-based effects. Very important. Obviously, he's just kind of forced to Soul Snow here. It gives him the summon of any guy. He goes for Caesar, which I don't know if that's particularly correct. I'm not super well versed in the deck, but I have to feel like that's probably not the best summon there. Maybe I'm wrong. Here, my pawn is just going to pop, I assume, Caesar, but obviously he has the trap, so it doesn't do anything. On res, he can, do some stuff. He fires the thumbs up and then realizes he actually has a line here where he can go pop with a Caesar and then tag out. He used the Mad Love to bounce, and then he uses the Halisu to go into the Pantera from deck to pop my other fusion. I don't know if that's fully necessary, but I don't think it's going to be helping him much either way. I can just use fusions to, if he doesn't, I'm just going to get into Secretarion, and that's going to bait out the Caesar because it's a dragon. And then from here, actually, I'm in a pretty weird position because he got rid of my Urgula. What I know here is I have to get into a fire, and he doesn't have any in graveyard. So what I do here is I find mana with the Frixel and the Pawn to go into Secretarion, trigger the Frixel, and the Arthalion to come back. Frixel with the Pawn. Frixel gets to bounce back my 5 mana. And then here I can use Rahu, dumping the Urgula and the 5 mana to make Gulamel. 5 mana triggers. No point in chaining Gulamel, obviously. And now I can normal summon an Alistair and go for the best card in this deck, Invoked Purgatrio. There's so many games where Purgatrio will just solo a board, where Vanquish Soul will have 5, or Goblins maybe, or more likely Radiant Typhoon. Like, this card is just so powerful. And yeah, as you see, it's 3,300. Alistair makes it 4,300. Attacks everything with piercing, and yeah, you just can't do much of anything about that. So next up, speaking of which, is Radiant Typhoon. This game is going to be post-board. So you see I have the Ultimate Slayers and the Shaddoll names in. He made a very strong board. He's got Totem Bird, the Varuru Rune, Megala to go into a Phonics, Runic Destruction, the Vision, Freezing Curses, and an MST. So it's a lot to play into. I start off with Ultimate Slayer, and here you have to value what is best. Valon can give me a pop for any of the back row, but it's just not going to be great. At best, it will fiend out the Varuru, so there's not a good reason to not dump Aggregator here. So here is more interesting. Aggregator, what do you target? A lot of people, I think, would target the Varuru because, it just fiends out that negate. But I don't want him to let that go and let Aggregator negate Varuru, because that means I can no longer Malulu to negate Varuru, which that's going to leave it negated forever, right? Because if I just out the Varuru, he can revive it with MST, but if I Malulu negate it, he doesn't really have anything to do with it. It's just sitting there useless. So here I choose to go Aggregator, target the Megala, and he lets that ride. Often it's just hard to out Varuru because it's got a 3k body, so a better strat, instead of trying to pop it with something, is just to Malulu negate it, and then, it's just sitting there. They can't do too much. Obviously it depends on the situation, but overall, yeah, I think it's the better way to do it. Here we go. Dragon target the MST, and then Urgula at 1. We get to go pop. Urgula then pops the Freezing Curses, and sadly it does leave the Destruction to go after my Ketu. If I don't have the Ketu there, I could probably just win on the spot, but it's okay. Here, Crochet gets back an MST, grabs a Phonics from the deck, and then I see on res he has the Destruction. Probably a 1-up just to snipe the Cat2, but it's not the biggest deal. I still have a decent line from here. I can go Invocation with both names. Remember, he still hasn't fired off the Varurun yet, so I'm going to go Chainlink 1 Arthalion, then Chainlink 2, 3, both names. Varurun's going to get 1, and that's kind of an issue for me, right? I would have preferred if he didn't do that, because now I can only get 1 trap. I think a lot of people here would probably pick Flame because they're going against Runic Radiant Typhoon, but here it's actually a lot better to pick up Sting, because my win condition, right, is going to be A, he has Runics, right, so he can't attack my guys, so I need to clear Varurun for next turn. So now I'm going to add back the 2 for Arthalion, normal the Frixel, and now I can Gulamel to pop the Varurun and then swing over his whole board. Now Varurun is in graveyard, and my Sting can just get it, as well as get some other important cards out of his way. I also have 5 mana plus Dragon and a Frixel, and obviously since I have a back row, I can just walk over everything. So here he fires the Chant to get the Mon, the Eldom, fires the Phonics here. I could fire Sting here, but that lets him just fire a quick play and response, so I think it's better just to wait. There's no real reason to do it. He can't go to battle phase. There's no threat here in waiting for the Sting. He goes Eldom for the Crochet. Now he goes Tip, and here obviously I can just chain the Sting, targeting MST and the Varurun, and then if he doesn't chain another quick play, then I can Gulamel to pop the Phonics. From that point, you know, obviously he doesn't have anything he can even pop with the MST to get Phonics back. He can't shuffle away my monsters, and I'm just in a much, much better position. I have the 5 mana, using a Dragon if I need to, but overall there's just not much he can do from there. You know, when you're playing against these types of decks, you just need to think about what your win condition is, right? My win con is the fact that it's Runics. He can't kill me. I'm setting up for next turn. There's no way he can just beat through all of this follow-up that I have. I hope that was insightful for you all. I think, you know, some pretty good games. If you want to see any more, you know, I have very solid games against Magnus, the Man deck, Onomats, and whatnot. So if you want to see any of those, please do comment down below with what you'd like to see next. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you all had a wonderful day, and take care.